Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today we're going to be unboxing Eldritch Horror Mountains of Madness. This is an expansion for the base game of Eldritch Horror, of which there is still one expansion that comes prior to this one called Forsaken Lore. Now the reason I'm unboxing this one a little out of sequence and also didn't unbox the base game of Eldritch Horror is because I've already been playing it for quite some time. So really at this point, you guys are just kind of jumping on the train because I've already been playing the base game as well as Forsaken Lore for quite some time, as I mentioned. This is now the next expansion in line that I'm going to be adding or merging in with the base game. So I'm really excited to show you guys this to see whether or not it's something that might interest you, because as a solo game, this is an incredible one. It has a massive following of people who love it. And a lot of those people were adopters of the Arkham Horror board game that Fantasy Flight made way back and merged over to this particular version called Eldritch Horror, or, like me, kept both because they both serve two different types of appetites. This has more of an Indiana Jones top-down, over-the-world kind of look, whereas Arkham Horror is very much focused in a city mentality, down in the streets type angle in terms of its theme. Again, they both sit in the same type of mythos and Cthulhu-based world of H.P. Lovecraft. However, they both have different scope. So Eldritch Horror being the larger scope and Arkham Horror being a little bit closer to home scope. So basically what we're going to do in this is we're going to unbox this. It's a game by Fantasy Flight Games. I'm going to show you what's inside the box so you can make a decision on your own as to whether this is something you want to add to your collection or to your base game of Eldritch Horror. And as always with stuff that I unbox, it will be in the queue for a future playthrough at some point in time, and we might actually do something a little unorthodox on the channel with this one. We might actually end up playing and maybe going after an ancient one that's a little bit tougher and a little bit further in. Like maybe, for instance, instead of doing the very first base game scenario, we'll actually do something from Mountains of Madness. So that way we can actually dive quite a bit deeper into the gameplay, and it'll appease more people and also entertain a little bit of people that are interested in the game from the very first time to people that have been playing it for quite some time. Alright, so let's flip this thing over and see what it's all about. So again, artwork on the box, Fantasy Flight Games, there's nothing bad to say about it. It's always attractive to the eye. Again, the Indiana Jones theme, the reason I even mentioned that, again, with the whole world traveling thing, this box screams it. As soon as I see it, I just think of Indiana Jones. On the back of this, and again, this has nothing to do with Indiana Jones, by the way. It just looks that way. So Eldritch Horror Mountains of Madness, we've got ourselves a picture of the board. So there is a board extension in this particular game that's basically going to add on to the base game board. So for instance, if you already own that, this will be Antarctica, which will allow you a whole bunch of other places to go explore, which is really cool. So I'm just going to zoom in on that so you guys can actually see the board itself. So that's what it looks like. You're going to get 8 new investigators. It's going to take you on a big adventure. It's going to add in some new cards that you've probably likely never seen before. So for instance, I will zoom out again so we can actually see some of those cards, but you can see right up here, there's 4 different types of cards that are being added into the game. A couple new investigators, but there's actually 8, even though it only shows 2 here. A bunch of new cards, of course, to add in, some new tokens, because you've got obviously new locations within Antarctica to explore. And it looks like I think there's 2 new ancient ones to go after, so that's really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to read this description right here so we get a little bit of an idea as to what this particular expansion is all about. So it says, long before the human race emerged, the Elder Things have existed. Now in 1926, their long slumber is disturbed. Their dark influence creeps outward, dominating the minds of humans towards a mysterious purpose. A few brave investigators caught wind of the impending catastrophe and head to Antarctica to find the source. They alone can stop the coming doom or go mad in the attempt. This expansion introduces the Antarctica sideboard, again, like it's going to be an addition to the base game board. A harsh new locale riddled with strange mysteries and hidden dangers. 8 new investigators are prepared to unveil the truth behind the strange happenings in the world, accompanied by new allies, including Professor William Dyer. To aid in their mission, investigators can undertake personal tasks to gain powerful rewards. They will also find a plethora of useful items, magic spells, hideous conditions, and terrifying encounters awaiting them at the Mountains of Madness. So that's really, really cool. We're going to zoom it out so you guys can see a little bit more of the box. You might also be wondering why this box has no wrap on it whatsoever. Well, that's like I mentioned before. Again, the main reason for that is because the fact that we are going ahead and unboxing this after the fact. I ripped the plastic off, but never actually went ahead and opened this up and actually unboxed it officially. I just took the wrap off of it and was done. So what we're going to do is just tear into it right now. So we'll rip this box right off, the lid, take away that beautiful art cover, and this is what you see inside. So inside of a typical Fantasy Flight game, you're going to get your catalog, which is going to be just a magnificent catalog full of many things you should spend your money on, because a lot of that is great stuff. I don't know why I said that, but to be totally honest, Fantasy Flight does have a lot of great stuff, and it's worthwhile going through their catalog to actually determine whether something happens to be of interest to you. So again, the whole point of this video is to unbox this guy, so that's what we're going to do right now, is talk about this and whether this interests you. So rulebook wise, this thing is actually quite thin, and I'm kind of surprised by that. There is maybe 8 pages, I think. Yeah, 8 pages at max. So that's nice for an expansion to not be a gigantic mess of a book to have to go through. So we'll just talk about it a little bit. Again, glossiness is there. It's going to give you a little bit of a kind of some story text as to why you're there and what we're doing. It's going to talk a little bit about the expansion overview. It's going to show you how to incorporate the expansion into your current game. It also shows the icon, which is very important because if you want to potentially put these cards into the new decks, or I should say the old base game decks, if you ever choose to take them back out, you can easily identify them by this icon. Components-wise, you've got yourself a new Antarctica sideboard. You've got yourself 8 investigators that are new, 2 new ancient ones, 26 mythos cards to add, 14 mystery cards, and 12 adventure cards. Those are new. We've never seen those before. Then you're going to have a bunch of things that we're very familiar with, like unique assets, artifacts, asset cards, spell cards, condition cards, but some new ones likely in those mix. And then, of course, some new encounters for the generic general encounter areas that you normally are used to. Some new Otherworld gate kind of cards, some 48 research cards, 24 special cards. This is a new deck, the Expedition deck, completely new, I believe. I could be wrong. Oh, no, sorry, that's not. But I think those get blended in so that we can make expeditions now to Antarctica, which is kind of cool. And then on the bottom here, I think these ones are really unique. This is Outpost and Mountain, so these specifically talk to the locations on the new Antarctica sideboard. And then over here are the Antarctica Research, which is obviously very, very, very thematic and appropriate to the game that's actually being played. Okay, you get yourself some clue tokens, which is normal. Focus tokens are not. That's a new addition. 1 adventure token, that's a new addition. Mysteries normal, more gate tokens. And of course, more wonderful monsters, as well as some, it looks like some round overview cards. Does that oh, that's cool. So that's going to give you a little bit of heads up on what to do. I like that. Okay. So again, it's going to talk, you're going to have all your stuff in breaking down all the new things, like the prelude cards, there's a sideboard, how to set up the sideboard, what the special rules are of the sideboard, the talk about the adventures, the focus action as we talked about, that token, the unique assets. Got yourself some nice art. So even though it's 8 pages, there is some art in here, taking up quite a bit of space. So it's really not as bad as you think. And then it moves right into the additional rules for some new combat stuff. Then it goes over to the optional rules, which again, I think you can just adjust difficulty based on if you want to, but the game's already hard enough as it is, but you can adjust it. And then of course, a really handy frequently asked questions section in the back to give you an idea of where and what certain things do if you have any questions, and then index and credits. So that's essentially the rule book. Now we're going to move to the actual token pile. So this is where things get fun. So basically, we're going to get ourselves 1 sheet. That's 1 sheet solid of new tokens. This is going to include the 4 new investigators, of which I don't know the names of just yet, but some of them I'm recognizing. Gate tokens, all the tokens we just talked about. So focus tokens are right here. You got some clue ones right here. You got your proof of purchase there, some gates. You've got, of course, the most exciting part is all the new monsters that are going to come after you, which is pleasant. And, of course, your adventure token, which is brand new. So some cool new stuff in this one that are not in the base. Then you're going to get this one board right here. And I'm going to open this up because it's worthwhile. This is going to be the actual game board itself for the sideboard of Antarctica. So this is what I'm really excited to see because I think the art on these boards is really cool. And again, you're going to understand when I said Indiana Jones, what I meant by that. Again, the game is not Indiana Jones, but you'll see why it kind of looks like that when you see the game board on the table. So here we go. Oh, that's really cool. So there you go. That's awesome, actually. I like that a lot. So it actually fits perfectly in the frame here. So you have City of Elder Things up here, Plateau of Len over here, Snowy Mountains, Frozen Waste, Lake Camp, and the Miskatonic Outpost. You got some pass, a legend, nice to tell you like what's a local or uncharted pass. So everything with a yellow is considered uncharted pass, and then anything with a green. So in this case, right here, going from Antarctica up to the Miskatonic Outpost is actually local. That's the only local one here. The rest is all uncharted. So I'm assuming you can come up here, but you kind of go further and further off the beaten path, maybe. I'm not too sure. We'll find out. There's also some rules right here in the bottom corner, which may be difficult to see on camera, but I'll just do a quick zoom in. Do apologize for any chairs you may hear moving around in the background. People are upstairs cleaning. So we got some rules right there. So again, I don't know if you guys can read that. You probably can, but there's some rules. I'll just move this over a little bit so you can see some of the flavor text on some of the locations and a little bit closer on the pictures themselves. So very cool. Always been a big fan of how they lay these things out. I think having this sitting right beside the base game board is going to look phenomenal. I'm also really excited to add more stuff into this game later on in the future. So that's that, and now we're going to move to the cards. This is where the majority of the content you purchase comes from. Some real big, thick decks of cards I'm going to have to implement into what's currently existing. So some of these are not going to be exciting because the majority of them are going to be massive piles of text. So I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but you'll see like these are city, wilderness, and sea cards. So essentially these will add into many different decks and stuff like that that you currently have from the base game to flush them out. So there's a large majority of those. This card might be one of the newer ones. Yes, it is. So I have not seen this one. Maybe I'll flip it over to this side instead so you can see the backs. But this is the reference card that I was talking about. So you can give these to each of the players, which is really handy because there was none of these in the base game. So that must have been a request that was honored by them. That's a good thing. You've got these right here. I have no idea what those are, but they look like... Oh, sorry, this is for the Ancient One, the new Ancient Ones cards themselves. And you've got a whole bunch of those. Of course, the second Ancient One, which looks pretty terrifying. That's some pretty fantastic artwork. So again, a bunch of cards for him. And then these ones right here are like research kind of encounters for those particular ones. So we've got a whole bunch of those, and they're specific to each monster. So that's the other thing, if you're not familiar with the game, there's a bunch that correspond story-wise to each one, so that when you're going through the game and solving the objectives that you need to in order to win the game, it's very thematic. You're actually playing objectives that matter towards the Ancient One you're trying to defeat. Here's some more. These are expeditions. So this is where you're going to actually end up taking expeditions around the world that are going to take you to different spots. So they added a couple new locations. Some of these are ones that are already on the board, and some of them are not. So I think this one's Arkham, for instance, based on what I'm seeing on the other side. Yep. And of course this, I have no idea. That's a new back to me. This could be an adventure card. Kind of looks like it. So here's an example of one. And this one says Journey to Another World, and it kind of looks like that's really cool. It's kind of like a postcard kind of feel to it with a little ticket up the top right, or stamp I should say, not ticket. So that's really, really cool. I like the one thing I've always really liked about Eldritch Horror, Arkham Horror, that stuff, is they've done a really, really good job of ensuring that everything kind of looks the part, and so that's something I really, really liked about what they do with this. Again, more of these cards, which I believe are just adventure cards. I'm not too sure, so don't quote me on that. Again, some more of those clues. So there's a difference between these ones you're seeing right now and these ones back here. But you'll see based on the picture, they're specific to the Ancient One you're fighting. So there's one of the Ancient Ones cards. And if you keep going down through the deck, you'll hit the opposite ones at some point. Where are they? There. So at the very back end kind of thing. So basically you're going to merge these all into the base deck. To any cards that match the backs to the base ones, you would merge those in. My apologies, I just kicked the entire camera sideways. Sorry for making everybody sick there, I apologize for that. So basically, if you're going to merge these into the base game, you're going to look at the card backs, merge them into the appropriate decks. The ones that are brand new are obviously going to apply mainly to just this expansion for now, so it keeps things simplistic, a little bit easier. I'm sure once you start adding more and more expansions in, things get a little bit more crazy. All right, so let's just take these cards and put them off to the side. You've got yourself, of course, at least at the very, very least, 8 stands to put on your new investigators that are going to be playing through the game. You have another deck of cards here for even more. This is the exact same size as the ones I just showed you, but these are encounter cards for the most part. They're encounter cards, or they're mythos cards. So these are all mythos, all these ones with the weird eye, tongue, teeth. I don't know what this thing is. These are going to be specific to adding into mythos decks. The rest are really easy. Based on the card backs, you just add them into decks you're already used to. So this is like the generic city, forest, and sea deck. This is generic for 3 different locations, generic for another 3 different locations. You just add those in and shuffle them in. This, however, is new to the expansion. So this color didn't exist prior. These locations are from the new Antarctica expansion, as well as these. So now you've got 2 new decks. Now you've also got this card, which I'm not familiar with. And this one, it looks like it could be another one. It has a... I'm not going to be able to speak to this one. This one I'm not too familiar with. On the very opposite side of this, if I was to flip one over for you guys, it does have some actual 3 different, essentially, encounters that you can go through. But they do seem to tag themselves to those locations that we talked about on the board. But I'm not sure what the deck is called specifically. You've got gate tokens, or gate cards themselves. So these are going to be encounters that you're going to deal with when you go through a particular gate, or when you try to close a gate. So you're going to go through, and kind of like Arkham Horror, you're going to travel through to another land, so that's always interesting. And then a few more of these cards to round out the bottom of the last deck we just looked at. Okay, so we got through that deck, and I didn't kick over the camera on that one, so hopefully you guys are still with me. We'll go into the mini cards now. So these are the smaller little cards that are added into the decks that you currently have, or they could be brand new. So we've got ourselves some interesting ones here. So these ones are considered unique items. So these are the really powerful cards that you can potentially find that are really going to help you out on your adventure. And I'm not going to speak to each one, but I'll just quickly rip through so you guys can see. Some of these are going to go into item cards. So items look like that. They have like a gun back on them, look very, very thematic. So these are just going to add into your item pool of cards. Then you've got ones here that are condition cards, like for instance funding, like you need to get some money, or you have an infection that you deal with, or you're hungry. Those are new. I'm not familiar with those from the base game. Hunted, like all these are new conditions. That's cool. Hypothermia, like very thematic. Debt condition, that's from the base game. Detained, dark pack, those are all from the base. These ones you're seeing right now are all from the base, but they're adding variation to the game, so that's great. New spells, so intervene, for instance, storm of spirits, those are new. Banishment, that's new. Arcane insight, that's new. Old journals, so again, a whole bunch of other items that I'm not familiar with. These ones are kind of gold ringed around. Oh, they're tasks. So I've never seen these. These could be the personal ones, the personal quests you go on or something like that, but I really am not sure. But these are specific to this particular expansion, brand new. Never a part of the base or the Forsaken lore that I'm aware of. So this is brand new stuff right here, quite a bit of it actually, so that's really cool. And that rounds out essentially all the cards in this expansion. The only thing remaining that we haven't talked about is just, of course, the ancient ones you're going to be battling, and then, of course, the actual heroes that you've now unlocked. So we'll definitely take a quick look at them, because this is where things get exciting to see. And I think in the future playthrough, we're going to take a look and go after one of these guys. I think it'll be really fun to do this in a showcase. So this one here, Ithaquah, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is some gigantic, abominable snowman type creature. So he's one guy that you can potentially go after. Again, it tells you how all cultists behave with him. It's got a bunch of triggering effects that can happen. Shows you right in the bottom left of every single ancient one how you actually build their deck based on the stages and stuff like that. So that's really cool. Rise of the Elder things are these little weird green things in the sky. We're used to those from even things like Mansions of Madness and Arkham Horror and the Arkham Horror the card game. So now you can see them in Eldritch Horror. And then same thing, but you'll notice that the actual Mythos deck is created completely different for each monster that you face. Very different layouts. So that keeps the game fresh and kind of unknown even when you start to recognize some of those encounters. Alright, so the new investigators are Agnes Baker, the waitress. So we're adding her to the pool. There's her stats. Daisy Walker. I most recently saw her in the Arkham Horror card game. Finn Edwards, not as familiar with that guy. 6'6", he's got quite an average numbers. George Barnaby, also very new. I'm not very familiar with that individual either. Patrice Hathaway, interesting. 5'7", so some interesting characters come along here. Tommy Muldoon, The rookie cop, I guess I haven't really been reading who they are. She's a violinist, that's kind of obvious. He was a lawyer, that was not obvious. And a bootlegger for him. Okay, so we'll keep on going through here. He is a rookie cop, very cool. And then we've got Ursula Downs. These are individuals I'm really not that familiar with. William Richards, I am familiar with William Richards. But yeah, like some of these guys I'm not familiar with. And of course, the really cool thing about all these new heroes, they all come with their own special actions that are going to be interesting for each particular character. And so they're all going to be very, very unique. You're not going to see the same thing twice, so that's really cool. But that's pretty much it. That is the full Eldritch Horror Mountains of Madness expansion unboxing. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Really, this was just to give you guys an idea of what to find inside the box. In a future playthrough, I'm going to, in the showcase for Eldritch Horror, I'm going to actually play through this game, maybe with all this stuff jumbled in once I get my head wrapped around the new rules for this new expansion. And that'll be really fun. So I hope you guys will join me on that. I do apologize earlier for kicking the camera stand over, almost making you all puke on cue there. But we managed to get through it, and there will be future Eldritch Horror unboxing, because I can tell you that for now. It's one of my favorite Arkham Horror-based games, among many, actually. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, give me a thumbs up, share the video if you know anyone who's interested in Eldritch Horror and would like to know more about the game, and also just the channel in general. Continue playing solo games, because that's how we roll, and as always, keep rolling solo.